Well, hello, and welcome back to Open Jars podcast. No lids, no limits. And here we are back with Kin.
Like, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good, Kin. Always lovely to talk to you. And as Kin said, this is Arek. So just to give you a little bit about ourselves, I'm Arek. I'm 20 years in the electronics industry business, work for different distributors and also EMS. And now I'm having the pleasure of having this podcast together with Kin.
Thank you, Arek. My name is Kin. I'm based in Canada, working for more than 30 years in manufacturing operations. I have a real passion for manufacturing and all things around manufacturing. And lately, I've been really interested about AI topic and doing a lot of research and experiments myself on it. So hoping to contribute to this conversation today with Arek.
Oh yes, we're going to utilize a lot of your experience in this one. So Kin, we spoke a little bit about AI, and then we spoke a little bit the AI versus the HI, so the human intelligence. That was also very nice. And I kind of alluded to talking more about the tools. So I would like us to focus maybe today a little bit about the tools in just general jump. So I just wanted to ask you, which kind of tools or LLMs are you familiar with? Can you kind of rank them or tell us a little bit more about them?
I'm not sure if I know enough to rank them, but I've certainly tried and tested quite a few of them. I think, of course, the most popular one that I use and a lot of people today use is ChatGPT from OpenAI. That's kind of a do everything LLM that's been getting a lot of attention in the media. But in terms of capability, it's certainly one of the better ones out there. I find that in the general work that we've been doing, particularly in manufacturing, pretty much almost all of the different AI tools, including some of those from China, have been actually performing quite well for the everyday tasks. Where different AI systems, models work better in specifics, I think it's things that I don't really use, which is, for example, writing software code or creating very sophisticated videos. I'm not a content creator. Well, maybe we are now, but I'm not a video content creator. I'm not into software coding as much. Some of the examples I'm going to give today is more manufacturing related and manufacturing operations and all the things you do in manufacturing.
Okay, so you mentioned ChatGPT at the very first one, and inside ChatGPT we have a very different models. So is there any big difference between when you want to use those models and maybe specifically to using AI in the manufacturing?
Yeah, for the needs that I use it for, some examples, just to touch on that first, would be things like doing sales marketing work. That's where I find I use a lot of it, because sometimes we get that writer's block. How do I write that email to that one prospect? I really want to get their attention so that they can, talk to us about our business. Drafting those emails certainly is something that the AIs are very good at doing, particularly if you give it a very good prompt. Other areas is certainly in areas of data analysis, churning through tons and tons of data. We touched on this topic in the last episode. The third is more of making AI act as a brain, just to remember a bunch of information and then build on that information that that they can work on. But in terms of the different models, with ChatGPT, I mean, lately I've been pretty much just running on the standard 4.0 model, which seems to be a very good generalist from an AI perspective. Recently, OpenAI announced their release of the 5, the GPT-5 model, which kind of flopped according to some of the critics. Honestly, when I had the brief moment to try a few things, to me, it produced pretty much the same results I was expecting from the 4.0 model. But in terms of other tools too, besides ChatGPT, I do actually find that because we do a lot of work in the Google Workspace environment. I mean, Gemini is actually also a very good tool. In my general research, instead of Google search something, I generally now start with Gemini. And even most Google searches, when you search for a specific topic, often the search would come back at the very top to give you kind of an AI response of your results. Right or wrong that is, before you go and start clicking the other links that give you, Google already built some of that Gemini into your everyday searches. So it's a real time saver, which is, where the AI models come back with. What about you, Arek? How do you use your AI
Yeah. I would say you started with ChatGPT, and I actually use it for very simple tasks. Like generating some graphics or looking through some documents. But I must say, when I had some legal topics that I had to find out, especially with the law that is outside of my country, I must say this tool was very good and helped me a lot. However, you mentioned data, and here is where I'm a little bit concerned, because if I throw a little bit of data into ChatGPT or Gemini, as you mentioned, I get the results. They're pretty good. I am happy. But if you throw too much, then I'm kind of getting into this zone and spinning in the circles with ChatGPT or Gemini, like, oh, should I give you answers in batches instead of, the whole thing? I don't have access to that. Can I do it? And then I say, okay, yeah, split it in batches, do it later. And most of the cases, it is forgetting to follow up, to do the thing. And I'm quite unhappy with this. And actually, this was the same experience I had with Sintra. So, this Google agents, sorry, not Google agents, AI agents from Sintra, but they were based on ChatGPT, if I'm not mistaken. And then I really used it for maybe 2 days, and I said, okay, it's not working for me. I can't do it. But then I saw it's the same thing with ChatGPT. So are there any tips and tricks that you can shed the light on, if maybe there's something better that should be given to in a different manner the task, so that the AI can deliver it?
Yes, of course. It depends on your format of your data, of course. Most of the data that we think of would be big giant spreadsheets, lots of numerical
Yeah.
data. In my experience, even very early on, Google was very good in building out some of the Gemini capabilities directly
Hmm.
within Google Sheets. Microsoft offers a similar offering with their Copilot product, which is
Copilot.
built on OpenAI's ChatGPT within Excel. Build Using these AI tools within the spreadsheets can be very helpful in terms of looking for trends in data that we might not be able to see in the big giant spreadsheets,
Hmm.
correlations with data, even just visualizing. Sometimes I would have a big spreadsheet with thousands of lines of data, and generally, as a data analyst, one would probably chart the data to see if there are any trends. Oh, AI can do that very quickly.
Hmm.
Maybe we can do a demo of that at some point in the future. The main thing is to keep that data accessible to the AI. If you were just to upload the Excel into ChatGPT and then ask it a question, it may
Hmm.
not know quite as well what to do. Whereas if you run the AI that's within the spreadsheet tools, I find that it's generally better to give you kind of the answers that you're looking for as when you're doing that data analysis.
Okay, I see. That's a good hint. I mean, so far I used it mainly on Google Worksheets, so I used it with Gemini, but then the kind of answer it was giving, it was like, okay, I can maybe make a table or add a column or give you a kind of summary, but not really trying to search the data and utilize a little bit more outside. But I guess there might be also some of the regional differences between, I'm assuming, the Americas and maybe Europe, because even when I remember the presentation that was given by Sandra Pichai at the moment, it was a lot of things they were mentioning. They were like, not available in Europe, not available here, and maybe in specific countries. Maybe my colleagues from Germany, they can utilize it, but especially like I am here based in Poland, there is a lot of things like it does not apply yet, and I hope this will come in time.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure about OpenAI in your region, but we
Hmm.
know in some of our work together recently that Google is somewhat slower in rollout of their different models in different regions. So here in North America, we have access to the Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is a
Hmm.
very good model for research and deep thinking. That was something I noticed that you didn't have access to. You only had the 2.5
Yeah,
Flash model.
yeah, yeah.
And that's going to make a little bit of a difference with the quality of answers you're going to get in your data analysis quest. But one of the things I also wanted to point out too is it's beyond the models themselves, the way we prompt the AI. In other words, the questions you ask or what it is that you want to ask sometimes really make a big difference. I find that I learned in my AI journey, there's three keywords that is very important to always include, which is think as if or act as if. So to start your prompt not by asking what is the data trend in this set of data that tells me when my machine is about to go down or something like that, to say something like think as a manufacturing engineer with experience in looking for machine data and run data analysis, and then go to ask your question. Having that extra little sentence in front really makes a big difference in the quality of the result that you're going to get back from the AI.
I agree with you 100%. This is something I also learned early on, that you need to always give the AI the role that it's supposed to playing. Always, like, this is the actor, you're the director, you just need to tell it. And one other thing, and I learned it from Sabrina Romanov, that at the end of the prompt, you're asking this question, ask me clarifying questions until you're 95% sure you can execute the task. So that was also something very good. But the cleverest hint I got ever was actually from you when I was trying to, create this very nice intro video that we now have with our podcast, and I couldn't do it. It was so full of mistakes. It was reading the color code as the text, and it was back and forth, and it really didn't fly. And then you told me the simplest thing ever: use another LLM to ask for the prompt, and then it worked really nicely. So hats off for you for that. That was very nice.
Yeah,
So we
that was
touched.
something I actually discovered myself by mistake, because I was actually playing around with trying to come up with a more sophisticated prompt because I was working on another project where the prompt ended up being quite long, and it was to the point where it was almost unmanageable. And I mistakenly copied and pasted into one of the AI inputs, and it came back and says, "Oh, here's the prompt that you want, and here's this how we can really make it better." I thought, "Oh my goodness!" Like, this recursive idea actually works. And so, sometimes when you have a little bit more than simple tasks, something that's a little bit more sophisticated and complex, come up with a general idea first, then put the prompt back and ask the AI, okay, you've given me this prompt, but I really need to do this and this and this and this and this more. Give it some more information and it will come back with another really good prompt. You don't necessarily have to switch between different AIs. They don't think differently. I think every AI sort of just thinks like another AI. But yeah, just to feed that back into the GPT and have it regenerate, what it's thinking, I think is a very good strategy too.
Yeah. So we touched a little bit those two LLMs, out of which, honestly, I mean, for me, simply because we're using Worksheet on every time I use Gemini, and also VO3 is there. And my favorite feature out of everything from Gemini is the note taker from your Google Meets. And that's a real handy tool, and I recommend this to anybody doing whatever business, whether you're EMS, distribution, sales. This is a very, very handy tool because it does not take away your time of making some notes and you're losing the attention. But then I wanted to shed a little bit more light on another tool that we talked about briefly before, which was NotebookLM. It's also within the family of Google, but it has a little bit different features. Maybe you can take us through that.
Yes, NotebookLM has actually become my favorite all-time AI tool today. The reason is we touched earlier about the feeding data and keeping data confidential. I certainly don't recommend businesses and companies employing things like DeepSeek in their work right now, because DeepSeek, unless you're very conscious working with the IT team to run a local generated model on your own servers, DeepSeek, sends the data to their servers. And this is no different than ChatGPT, where, whatever data you put in gets sent to the ChatGPT servers.
Yes.
And here's the scary thing, is that data could be used to train ChatGPT to think in the future, which means whatever confidential data you might have from your customer, if you're a manufacturer, you might have actually broken the NDA by using an LLM AI to analyze something. So be very aware of that. Just taking a little bit of a sidetrack, I'm really keen on working with Anthropic Claude, which is a smaller model you can run locally. They tend to be safer and have better safeguards than ChatGPT in general. Gemini is actually pretty good, particularly if you're on a pro version. But coming back, when you mentioned, definitely NotebookLM is my favorite for a real good reason. NotebookLM, while it's a very capable AI, It's also, it was originally developed as a research tool by Google to allow students to do research. And what they do is they allow essentially the student or the researcher to upload their reference sources. And then now you can ask questions about the
Yes.
reference sources. So, for example, as we're compiling some of the information for our podcast, I kind of pulled a lot of the information from OpenJar's blogs and articles, and then asked AI questions about the particular topics. So it's thinking like another OpenJar employee in that sense, rather than just grabbing information from the general internet and whatever data that was trained on.
Yeah.
So going with this aspect allows the AI to work with a little bit more focus. So imagine, if we had an intern in our team and we asked the intern to come up with another topic to discuss in this very fun podcast, the intern might go and start flipping through magazines and looking through LinkedIn articles and to come up with a
Mm-hmm.
topic. But if we said, hey, here's the topics that OpenJar is talking about, and then limit the intern to looking only at that information that we gave it or gave him or her, the intern will likely come up with a topic that is relevant within the confines of the company. And that's exactly what NotebookLM is very good at doing. Is you can give it a Word document, a PowerPoint, equivalent, PDFs. You can upload just text. You can clip other websites that you want to reference and ask it, okay, based on the information I'm giving to you, tell me this, answer this question, or tell me
And I
that.
agree. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on this one. And, I'm also utilizing this in the way. And I love the audio summary that it can generate. And now there is also a video summary. So if you have a long, long PDF and you really want to get it quickly, I highly recommend. I was dropping some other documents about writing prompts, and it gave me a very beautiful video. I'm thinking about sharing it, but it was done totally about through the notebook LM. But one thing I wanted to mention, it's also kind of limitation, I guess, on that tool, because when you have few documents, yes, it can generate everything very nicely and you're happy with the result. But then if you drop a bunch of different documents, like, I don't know, 20, 30, didn't even get the audio generating thing. So I don't know how it works. Is there a limitation that you're aware of?
I don't think there is a limitation from my experience. I've had one project. One of the things definitely is within NotebookLM, you can organize your chats into multiple project folders. So that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely something I highly recommend. So don't try
I
to
see.
put everything into one. However, I do have for myself in a NotebookLM one everything folder. So everything about the general topics that I don't know whether I'm going to use this information ever or not, but I throw it in NotebookLM anyways. Because in
Mm-hmm.
NotebookLM, I can always check and uncheck which reference sources that it's going to
Mm-hmm.
use or not for each of the questions I'm able to ask it. So this gives me a lot of control on my side in terms of how the AI is going to work to produce what I want it to come up with. Organizing your data is important, and I think that's something that goes right back to some of our one topic that we touched on, which is data cleanliness. You put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out, but
Of
so you
course.
have to have good data and keep regenerating those prompts.
Okay. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the LLMs, and then we talked about the notebook LM. We just skimmed the data, but we are kind of running out of time, so we have to do a little bit more in the next one. And I guess maybe in the next one, Kim, we could focus more on the AI usage in the manufacturing with all those tools. So how about that? Maybe this is something we're going to discuss next.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. I've got some examples maybe I can share with our audience to see like real world ways of how we would use an AI in the manufacturing realm that at least I've experienced. So
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
And maybe, guys, if you have something specific that you would like to ask, you just put it in the chat, and we'll be happy to look for that. Okay. So thank you very much for today, Kin. Always a pleasure, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. We'll
Bye
talk to
bye.
you next time. Bye.